Today, we're going to be continuing on with our New York State Beaks of Finches lab. A little recap from yesterday. Remember, we simulated an island where there was only one species of finches in the Galapagos Islands. And this species was simulated by our tweezers. Small, pointy, metal, has somewhat of a spring action. And we used little seeds, remember our grass seeds? We did 2 trials. And our trials show that in the allotted time, the simulated species of tweezers of the finch was able to get an average of 14.5 seeds in 25 seconds. And since that was over 13, the species survived. Now, as we move into day 2, round 2, we're going to simulate being on another island. Except in this island, there's competition. There's more than one species of finches. But these species have different characteristics, and we're going to be using tools to simulate this. Again, in this round, I'm going to be demonstrating, you'll be watching, and then analyzing my data. In this simulation, I'm going to be using big seeds. And I'm going to do the 2 trials. And again, I will have 25 seconds for each trial for each tool. So let me introduce my tools that will be the simulated beaks. My first one I'm going to use is going to be a clothespin. So take note of its characteristics. It's wooden, has a spring, so it closes on its own, pretty small. When you look at the front, it's got a stubby nose or a stubby beak and a little bit of indentation. And we'll see how that works with collecting seeds. When I introduce my second tool again, you saw yesterday, the tongs, serving tongs, obviously much bigger. They have spring action except opening. Pointed end, but sort of a scoop, and plastic at the ends. Before I start, I am just going to remind you I'm doing 2 trials. I'm going to start with a clothespin. Let me get you set up. I'm using big seeds this time. I'm going to start with the clothespin, and I will give myself 25 seconds. Remember, the dish is the environment, and the little dish is the finch's stomach. So let's start. My time is ended. Let me count the number of big bean seeds I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to write that in my trial 1 chart. You should be following along. You'll need to pause the video and write this in as well. So how much did I say I had? I had 7 seeds. Now I'm going to move on to trial 2 with my clothespin and the big seeds. Dump them back out. Empty stomach, full environment. Let's start the time again, 25 seconds. My time is ended. And I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seeds this time. Let's both add that to our chart. Again, you'll need to add that too. So 5 seeds. And then when we find our average, we know that 5 plus 7 divided by 2, our average would be 6, right in between 5 and 7. 5, 6, 7. Now we're going to move on to our serving tongs feeding with competition trials and see how those work out. Let me start my time. Oops. Okay. And let me count the seeds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 seeds on the first trial. Make sure you're putting this in the table as well. Let's move on to trial 2, 25 seconds. Empty stomach. And start. Okay, and I counted as I went, and this time I got 15 seeds. One fell out, so that doesn't count. Let's go back to our table. We'll type in 15. Our averages are working out pretty easy for us because when we find our average, 13 plus 15 divided by 2 equals 14, right? Right in between 13, 14, 15. So an average of 14 seeds in 25 seconds. Now, in this simulation, collection of 13 seeds on average is required for survival. So take a look. The clothespin got an average of 6 seeds in 25 seconds, and the serving tongs got an average of 14. So which species do you believe will live, and which species do you believe will die out? Pause the video and answer this question. Now that you've completed the lab, it's time to complete the analysis questions. And we're going to go over them now, but it's important to note that I'm going to be available tomorrow, Thursday, on Zoom for help with these questions. Number 1, what characteristics of the beak tweezers made it easy to feed on small seeds during the first round? So remember, when we're talking about characteristics, the tweezers were metal, they had a pointed ends, a very fine tip, they sprung open. So use those traits to consider why they were so successful in feeding on the small seeds. Number 2, why did the larger serving tongs allow for survival in round 2 with the large seeds? Let's examine our serving tongs again. Right? So metal but plastic at the end. They kind of have little scoops. Pointed but rounded ends. Some spring action open. And use those characteristics. Those are characteristics to explain why the tongs were so good at picking up the large seeds. And then in round 2, with the large seeds, we know that the clothespin was not very good at picking up the large seeds. And our simulated species died because it couldn't get the required number of seeds in 25 seconds. Let's look at the characteristics of the clothespin again. It's wooden, has spring action but it springs closed, small. Take note that it has a really stubby nose, like a stubby, if we're saying it's a beak, and also an indentation. What do you think? Do you think that might have made it hard to pick up the seed? So put your thoughts in the answer. Number 4, name 3 other traits other than the beak that could help a finch species survive. Think of animal characteristics that a finch might have. It's a bird. Think of how it is adapted to its environment in 3 other traits. And again, I'll be here to help on Zoom. And then we're going to examine the finch wheel again. We talked about it briefly, but number 5 and 6 you're going to use with the finch wheel. Predict which species of finch would be most likely to be able to survive if the weather on the Galapagos Islands changed gradually, with the seeds available to the finches becoming larger and harder to break. So you're going to know that it's going to be mainly plant food that they're going to be eating, because seeds are plants. And without giving the answer, you're going to need a large beak, right, that's able to crush. So use the finch wheel to figure out which species you think would be best suited to break a large, tough, harder to break seed. And lastly, question 6. In the unlikely event that seeds became unavailable, so there were no seeds on the islands, and this is unlikely, which species of finch would be most likely to survive? So take a look. We'll start from our center. Take a look at what the finches eat. So mainly plant food. We might be able to eliminate them because seeds come from plants, so then they might not be able to eat. Take a look at which species could survive only on animal food. And this concludes the Beaks of Finches lab, your last New York State required lab. A reminder, I'm going to be available on Zoom for your assistance. I would highly encourage you come, as this lab is required for Regents credit. And just like yesterday, I want you to post a public comment in the comment box for this assignment. Just and you can reply to other people. Just keep it nice, keep it friendly and constructive. Thank you.